come across those who attract mystery and intrigue. These figures become larger than life, remain inscrutable enigmas. One of those figures is the mystifying woman known as Nina Gulagina. Nina was born in St. Petersburg, Russia in 1926. As a young and impressionable 14-year-old, Nina enlisted herself in the Red Army. She was assigned to a tank regiment fighting the Nazis during World War II. This was a grim, dark chapter in her life. During this time, Nina endured the numerous hardships of war and violence before an injury ended her military career. After the end of her time in the military, Nina led a seemingly normal life, on paper at least. She went on to get married, settle down, and have children. She was, for all intents and purposes, a housewife. It was during this quiet time in her life that things would begin to get very strange. Nina found herself delving into the ancient archives of legendary cases of powerful psychic individuals. Nina describes the night she realized that something wasn't quite right. I was very angry and upset one day. I was walking toward a cupboard in my apartment when suddenly a pitcher in the cupboard moved to the edge of the shelf, fell, and smashed to bits. At first, she was frightened a bit and suspected that her home might even be haunted. Over time, she began to realize the link between her anger and the phenomena was undeniable. Nina had had hazy recollections of her own mother possessing the ability to move things with her mind. Perplexed, she tried to focus her concentration. Initially, she wasn't able to control what appeared to be psychokinesis, or the ability to move objects with the power of the mind alone. It took a lot of practice and patience. Over time, she slowly gained the ability to move objects at will, starting with small, light objects, such as strips of paper, cigarettes, and matchsticks, gradually graduating to heavier, more substantial objects, much to her own amazement. Nina's powers grew outside of just inanimate objects, as she allegedly started to manifest other abilities. She discovered she could see what was inside people's pockets, see colors with her eyes closed merely by touching something, and even by her own accounts, healing people or generating electromagnetic energy from her body. Nina was no ordinary housewife. She mostly kept these extraordinary powers to herself for fear of telling anyone else. After suffering mental problems, she was sent to a hospital for observation. The hospital staff saw firsthand her miraculous and mysterious abilities, previously unknown to anyone. This is when word got out about her, attracting interest from parapsychologists around Russia. One of the first to come and test Nina's abilities was Soviet scientist Edward Naumov, who quickly affirmed her potent psychokinetic abilities. To test them, he spread out some matches in front of her in an impromptu experiment. Nina quickly demonstrated her abilities, moving them with her mind to the edge of the table and onto the floor. After this, she was supposedly intensely studied by Soviet scientists in numerous experiments under controlled conditions. During this process, the extent of her abilities became abundantly clear and undeniable. One of the most widely tested of Nina's powers was that of psychokinesis. She was consistently able to baffle everyone fortunate enough to witness these demonstrations, purportedly even under the strictest of lab conditions. Among the many experiments carried out, some truly stand out as bizarre. In one test, Nina was able to move objects that were completely sealed in a plexiglass container, and to even remove a marked matchstick from a pile under these conditions. In another, she made a ping pong ball levitate for several seconds. Perhaps the most spectacular one was when she was seated in front of a vat of saline solution, in which hovered an egg, floating there like an insect in amber. Nina was confirmed to have no way to physically reach it or affect it with any sort of trickery, and with some amount of intense concentration, she was able to allegedly open the egg and separate the yolk from the white, all while puzzled scientists looked on. She was even able to put the two halves back together, though only if she kept her focus long enough. Many of the experiments conducted with Nina Kulagina were documented on film, this one included. These displays of psychokinesis had profound and measurable effects on Kulagina's heartbeat, brainwaves, and electromagnetic field. They also caused her discomfort and drained her both mentally and physically. They even caused dramatic weight loss over a short period of time, yet she was always willing to continue these experiments. Other powers were also supposedly uncovered and tested by scientists, such as the ability to develop film that was kept in an envelope with her mind, to tell what color any object was without being able to see it, to magnetize or demagnetize objects, and to cause images to appear on paper. All of these were revealed over time, with perhaps most impressive of them being her ability to seemingly affect organic tissue and living cells. It was this power that lies at the center of one of her most famous and certainly weirdest experiments of her career. The experiment was organized by Soviet scientist Dr. Gennady Sergeyev, who had spent years studying the mysterious woman and running her through countless tests. In the experiment, the still beating heart of a frog was placed in a solution, which could keep it beating for up to an hour. Kulagina was asked to see if she could influence it in any way with her mind. Scientists were measuring beats per minute through electrodes they'd hooked up to the amphibian's tiny ticker. According to the Soviet doctors monitoring her, Kulagina's own heart rate increased dramatically during the 7 minutes it took her to mentally stop the frog's heart. It had taken her 20 minutes to prepare for the exercise. Later, rumors would even claim she could influence human hearts. However, this is unconfirmed. As to how she did it, Sergeyev would speculate that she somehow was drawing energy in from the atmosphere around her and projecting it at the thing she was focusing on. He made electromagnetic readings that he claimed supported this theory. All of these amazing feats were starting to get out into the wild and into international news. It wasn't long before Nina Kulagina was attracting scientists from overseas. In the meantime, Nina changed her name to Nelia Mikhailova in order to hide and protect her real identity, as she was facing increased scrutiny from the public. Despite this scrutiny, throughout it all, she was said to be labeled the real deal by nearly everyone who studied her. Of course, there were skeptics who waved it all away as illusions, sleight of hand, and trickery, but these experiments were consistently claimed to be under the most stringent conditions. Regardless of accusations of cheating, it has never been conclusively proven that she was ever caught doing so in any of these bizarre demonstrations. In fact, in one instance, she was accused of fraud by a Soviet newspaper. Kulagina won a defamation case against her, further propelling her legend. The main problem with all of this is that it is almost based solely on reports coming out of the Soviet Union at the time when the Cold War was going on. Most notably, there was much competition between the United States on many playing fields. Importantly, both governments were engaged in their own studies into psychic phenomena at the time. So there seems to be the definite possibility that the stories of Kulagina's powers were at best exaggerated, or at worst, completely fabricated. In the end, there is simply no way to truly verify any of it. All sources lead back to Soviet claims, often with murky details on how these supposed strict environments were carried out. We have no choice but to take their word for it. There is also the fact, despite the Soviets claiming that dozens of scientists examined her, including 2 Nobel laureates no less, there doesn't seem to have been any official scientific paper ever published on it at all. This seems particularly odd for such a sensational, potentially groundbreaking subject. Then there is the fact that the videos of her supposed demonstrations are grainy and indistinct, making it difficult to count them as hard evidence. Although Nina Kulagina was without a doubt a real person, there is no tangible way to untangle the fact from possible fiction, and we have no way to really know whether she was a scam artist or one of the most powerful psychics ever. We just don't know. Whether Kulagina was the real deal or not, she stood by her claims for the rest of her life. It has been said that her use of her alleged abilities may have led to her demise. Her supposed psychic abilities were said to be well documented, as taking a serious toll on her physical health, even causing a severe heart attack at one point in the 1970s, which almost killed her. Over the years, she continued various demonstrations and experiments, but she was often described as looking increasingly haggard and frail. In 1990, she finally passed away at the age of 64, taking whatever secrets she had to the grave with her. So was this all Soviet trickery, the work of a charlatan, or evidence of an enormously powerful psychic lost to history? No matter what one thinks, Nina Kulagina has certainly cemented herself as a true paranormal historical oddity and a mysterious case